You've written your opening scene, but something feels off. Not bad, just off. That might be your story quietly telling you that that's not actually where your story starts. I'm a book coach who helps writers craft stories that connect emotionally and keep readers turning the pages. And sometimes where you think your story starts isn't actually what's going to hook readers and keep them reading. So today we're going to fix that. We're talking about how to choose the right moment to begin your novel so your first chapter feels purposeful, engaging, and full of momentum. So let's start with a big question. What does it actually mean to start your story in the wrong place? Because this isn't always obvious when you're drafting. Sometimes it feels like the opening is fine. It's well written, the characters are there, the setting's there, the prose might even be really beautiful, but something's off. Chances are you're either starting too early before anything meaningful happens, or too late after important context has already passed and the reader can't catch up. Here's what these two problems look like in action. Starting too early usually means you're easing in with a lot of setup. You've got scenes where your character's waking up, making coffee, walking through the world, thinking about their life, but nothing has shifted yet, and the story is pretty much in neutral. And while that might feel natural to write, it often leaves the reader waiting for tension and waiting for purpose. Then on the flip side, starting too late can mean diving into an action scene or a dramatic moment without giving the reader anything to hold on to. They don't know who the character is, they don't know what's at stake, so even though something exciting is technically happening, it doesn't land emotionally. It's like turning on a movie halfway through and trying to guess what's going on. It might be intriguing, or you might just feel lost. The sweet spot, the right place to start, is where the story begins to move, where something shifts, where there's a change coming, or a problem emerging, or a question the reader needs answered. And that's what we're aiming for. Now we've talked about what it means to start in the wrong place. Let's look at some common warning signs that your chapter 1 might need a rethink. Red flag number 1, nothing's really happening yet. This is probably the most common one. You've written a few pages or even a few chapters, but when you zoom out, you realize not much has actually changed. We're just watching your character go about their day. Maybe they're reflecting or thinking or reacting to small things, but there's no real movement yet, and no conflict, no tension, no sense that something is about to shift. A good sign you're in this zone is if your critique partner says something like, "I liked the writing, but I'm not sure what the story is yet." Red flag number 2, it's heavy on explanation. This is where your opening gets loaded with backstory, world building, or internal monologue before we've had a chance to care. You might be introducing a fantasy world with pages of history or explaining your protagonist's emotional baggage right away. But readers don't want an info dump. They want to see your world and your character in action and pick up the details as they go. If you're starting with, "Here's everything you need to know before the story can start," that's a sign the real story hasn't started yet. Red flag number 3, the reader is confused. Now let's flip the problem. Maybe you're dropping us into a high-stakes scene right off the bat. A heist, a battle, a breakup. But we don't know who these people are or why it matters. That can create confusion, not tension. If your beta readers say they felt lost or weren't sure what was going on, that's a clue you might be starting too far in. Red flag number 4, the story already happened. Here's a subtle one. Sometimes you write a scene that can feel dramatic, but it turns out the real emotional turning point already happened off the page. Like your protagonist is already heartbroken, but we didn't see the breakup. Or if they already quit their job, but we didn't see the moment that they walked out. When we miss that turning point, we don't feel connected. So even though the character is reacting to something big, the reader doesn't fully understand the stakes. Red flag number 5, it feels like you're warming up. So sometimes when you're first writing that draft, it feels like you're just kind of getting your footing. And this is about you, the writer. You're easing into your voice, figuring out the character, learning the world. But once you've gotten into the meat of your story, you might realize, oh, the real beginning is here. And that's okay, writing is rewriting. Your first chapter doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to exist so you can see what the story wants to become. So how to fix an opening that's starting in the wrong place? Let's say you've spotted one or maybe several of those red flags in your draft. I'm going to review some steps you can take to fix it. Step number 1 is to start where something changes. This is the heart of it. Ask yourself, what's the first moment where something shifts for your character? What's the scene where their normal is disrupted, or a question is introduced that demands an answer? That moment of change is where your story likely wants to begin. To find it, try this exercise. Read the first few pages of your draft and underline the first moment of conflict, decision, or tension. That's probably your true starting point. And if you're having trouble with that, a powerful question that you can go even deeper with is, why today? Why is this the day we meet your protagonist? And why is this the moment that their story begins? If you can't answer that clearly, you might still be starting too early. Step number 2, let backstory wait. When you start closer to the action, it's tempting to hit pause and catch the reader up with backstory or world building. But trust that you can weave those details in as they become relevant. The beginning should create curiosity, not answer every question about your world. Let the characters' actions, voice, and choices reveal who they are. Let the world unfold as the reader walks through it. You don't need to explain everything up front, just enough to ground us and keep us moving. Step number 3, rewrite just that one scene. Here's a low pressure way to experiment. Don't overhaul the whole draft yet, just try rewriting your opening scene from that new starting point you've identified. Start where something shifts, start where your character has to make a choice. Start where the story begins, not just the world. And see how it feels. Often just rewriting that one scene can reveal a lot about what your book is really about. Now, a common question I get is, should you show normal life before the story kicks off? If we're supposed to start with the story changes, do we still need to show the character's normal life first? And the short answer is yes, but only if it serves the story, and be careful of how much space this normal life takes up. Here's how to think about it. The purpose of showing a character's everyday world isn't just to set the scene, it's to create contrast. When we understand what normal looks like for your protagonist, the change has more weight. We see what we're losing, what they're afraid of, and what they've settled for. But here's the catch with it. You don't need to give us the full status quo, just a glimpse, enough to show what's at stake when the world shifts. Now, here's where it gets even more important. Get to know your genre, because the expectation of how long we should stay in normal before the inciting incident can vary a lot depending on what kind of story that you're telling. So for example, in thrillers, readers often expect to be dropped into the tension pretty quickly, so you might show the protagonist normal through the chaos by how they react. In fantasy or sci-fi, there's often a bit more space to ground us in the world before the plot launches, but that world building still needs to feel active. Something should be brewing. And in romance, it's common to see a normal life setup, the protagonist struggling with work, family, or emotional wounds before the love interest enters and shifts the emotional stakes. In literary fiction, the normal might linger longer, but there's still a turn, some question, some tension that begins to build quietly beneath the surface. So the takeaway is the right starting point for your story depends both on your character arc and your reader's expectations. So ask yourself, how quickly does your genre expect the story to move? What are the reader's assumptions, and how can you meet or subvert them with purpose? When in doubt, study the first chapters of your books in your genre. What's happening on page 1, page 5? How quickly does the tension rise? That'll give you a powerful blueprint, and you can use this to kind of direct how much you want to spend on that opening for yourself. All right, let's rein it back to the writing. Does your current first chapter start where something changes? Or are you still in that getting ready phase, setting the table but not serving the meal? Take a moment to step back and ask yourself, what's the first real decision, conflict, or shift in my story? Why is today the day the story begins? And how much of my opening is setup and how much is movement? All right, so now you know what to look out for to see if your story starts in the right place and the tools to fix it. If this video was helpful, you'll definitely want to check out my next one. It's all about the #1 mistake I see in most first chapters. It's a sneaky one, and it might be the reason your opening isn't grabbing readers the way that you want it to. Thank you for watching, and happy writing.